When couples come in for counseling, the number one presenting problem they bring is communication. They believe that they have issues in their relationship and their inability to communicate is keeping them from resolving them. The problem I've identified is most of the time they only identify the other person's communication issues, which one, they're not in control of, and two, that's only half the problem. So I'm gonna help every single one of us out today because we all have some communication issues, and I wanna identify 5 communication killers that may creep into your relationship, because if you can eliminate those, your communication will improve today. So that's today on Relation Shots, top 5 communication killers. Welcome to Relation Shots. My name's Eric Wooten. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place where you can get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you've not already done so, click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. So listen, if you've been in a relationship for longer than like 10 minutes, you know that poor communication makes everything difficult. Resolving problems, parenting, finances, even trying to figure out where to go to eat can be difficult if you don't communicate well with your partner. I do believe that we all have unique things when it comes to communication. We grew up in families that had different communication styles. Our personalities and our approach to communication can make it hard, but there are some universal mistakes that we all make, and if we can eliminate, I promise you will improve your communication immediately. So on today's video, I want to cover 5 common communication killers that might be active in your relationship, and if you eliminate them, your communication will improve this afternoon. So here's communication killer number 1. It's minimizing. That is when your spouse or your partner brings an issue to you that they think's a big issue. Do not at all costs minimize the issue. Phrases like, that's not that big of a deal, or it really didn't hurt that bad, or I hear you, but I've had worse. All of those things minimize, and here's what they really do. They tell the other person that there is little or no hope that you will actually care about them and try to understand what they're going through. So even if you feel like it's not a big deal, that's not important in the moment. You need to address what they think's a big deal. And if you want continued access to their heart, you need to try to understand how they're feeling and connect with them on the issue. So do not at all costs minimize the issue that they're bringing to you. Communication killer number 2 is defensiveness. Defensiveness is simply our way of fighting off feeling bad or being wrong. So whatever your go-to is, attacking, anger, pouting, withdrawal, whatever your defensive tactic is, simply you are telling the other person, whatever you're bringing to me, I'm not interested in, and closing them down in that moment communicates that their message is not important to you and you're not willing to hear or be open to anything they might bring to you. Justifications, explanations, excuses, all of those are just attempts to defend against the other person and put yourself in a posture where you're not only closed off to what they're bringing, but what they hear is you're closed off to them as a person. So in the midst of conflict, in the midst of communication, avoid anything that may come across as defensiveness because it will take you in the wrong direction in this communication. Communication killer number 3, I almost left off because it's my issue and I didn't really want to acknowledge that, but communication killer number 3 is sarcasm. If you know me at all, you know that I've always got a joke or a quick-witted comeback or maybe a sharp cut at the tip of my tongue. It's like my brain just continues to produce them and throws them into my mouth, and I have to decide when and when not to deliver them. But sarcasm will always communicate to the other person disdain and disrespect. And because I don't love conflict, I'm a little passive aggressive. So sarcasm is a great way to take shots, let people know when I'm not happy. And then if they don't respond well, I can always fall back on, I'm just joking. What's the big deal? So if sarcasm is your issue, join me and try to get to a place where I will eliminate sarcasm. I will actually address what I'm frustrated with in a loving and truthful manner, because sarcasm will shut a person down. It kind of comes from a place of arrogance, and it communicates to the other person, I'm a little better than you. I'm not really interested in what you have to bring, and it will always take your communication in a direction you don't want to go. Communication killer number 4 are universal statements. If you've ever used the words always or never in your communication, you understand universal statements. The problem with these is they're simply not true. There is an exception to the always and never, probably at least one time. And the problem with using those is that your message now is lost because the person's already decided you're not telling the truth. And so whatever follows always or never, I'm disregarding because you've started with something that's not true. Not only is that message untrue, but it makes the other person feel bad and judged because it's a universal attack on who they are. They feel like a total failure or have the total inability to meet you where you're at, when that's not the case. It's probably not the case that they've never loved you. The case is probably that they are not currently loving you the way that you've either asked or desire in the relationship. So rather than using universal language, be specific, focus on what you need, and avoid this communication killer. Communication killer number 5 are shutdown statements. These are the statements you use when you're overwhelmed, angry, upset, hurt, and you just want the conversation to end. These are the verbal equivalent of slamming the door in the other person's face. Statements like, it's fine, when it's not fine. Statements like, it doesn't matter, when it really does matter. Statements like, okay, whatever, you're right, when you don't believe they're right. These are all shutdown statements, and they're designed to get yourself out of the conversation. The problem is they leave the other person feeling like there is no resolution, and they know as well as you know that the statement you made is not accurate. It was just something to shut them up, which is probably going to escalate or increase their anger on their side. So rather than using these shutdown statements, if you feel like you're overwhelmed or it's too much, call a timeout. Ask for a time later to come back and revisit it because you don't feel like you're making any progress. So there you have 5 communication killers that may be active in your relationship. And if so, identify them, eliminate them, and I promise you, your communication will improve immediately. If this video has been helpful to you, consider sharing it with a friend or at least your spouse. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Drop a few other communication killers that you see in your relationship so we can all learn from one another. Look forward to talking to you and look forward to seeing you next time right here on Relation Shots.